This show is sponsored by Horizon HVAC, who you can count on for all of your heating and cooling needs. Also by CES Construction, who specializes in bathroom and kitchen remodels. All right, here we are, episode 11, Mindset Radio Podcast. I'm here with guest Todd Chattelle. Todd, what's going on, man?
Yeah.
We've been talking about having you come on here for a while. I'm excited. We had Jared on here the other day. We kind of reconnected at Jared's gym, and we've been we've been keeping in contact over the last few years, but I'm glad that we started reconnecting recently and talking more spiritually, because that's something that I wanted to get involved in a little bit more, have a better understanding of it. I know Sheena, she's very spiritual herself. So we just have a lot of questions on like your journey, how you started getting into the spiritual journey for your own and how it started. But first I want to start off with just the basic stuff. Where were you born?
Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
And
Memorial Hospital is not there no more.
Yeah. Memorial or Miriam?
Memorial. Yeah.
And that's in Pawtucket.
Yeah, yep.
What was your childhood like in Pawtucket?
I don't know which way to go with that. That could be a long.
Yeah. I mean, break it down. Like, I
was mostly lived in Pawtucket, Central Falls, beginning of my life. Then Pawtucket, Cumberland for a few years, back to Pawtucket. It was rough upbringing, some good, some bad.
You had how many brothers?
I have 6 brothers and 1 sister.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I heard of the Chattelles from just a young age, and you were everybody would talk about the Chattelles like, don't fuck with them.
Yeah.
Stay away from them. If you have any, people would go to you guys for help. People would go to you guys for various different problems. And tell me what that was like as a kid, kind of having that burden on your shoulders, walking around with that name and having to kind of project this type of person to people.
I don't think it was like necessarily a burden, except it came with a lot of trouble, because I think me and my brothers real hard. We, as little kids, we would wrestle and fight with each other. So just fighting and wrestling and all that was really just competition. We went through so much together that we always kind of, I don't know, you call it like trauma bonding, where you go through so much together that you stick together through good, bad, make a lot of bad decisions together, and just, you kind of learn that, or you're taught that, you're all in, even for the bad. Mostly for the bad, all good. You know what I mean?
When you say all in, like if something happens, we're all in it together?
All in. So essentially like 20 guys jump out and it's you and your 2 brothers. You're there to the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was that like a non-written agreement, or did you guys?
I mean, I think it's just, like I said, from going through so much together, like it's like, it was kind of taught. I think it was my brother Jay was the most sensitive one out of all of us. Always, he was kind of the center of attention. He always wanted to be in the spotlight. And I remember we were living on Summer Street in Central Falls. The kid next door picked on Jay. Jay's talking junk back and forth. The kid came over, threw him off the porch. So now this is my oldest brother, my strongest and my toughest brother. And this kid was bigger and stronger and tougher than my brother. And so he pushed him off the porch. Jay got hurt. We went upstairs. And then my mother looks at me and said, "What did you do about it?" And I was like, "What was I going to do?"
Yeah.
She was like, pow, smacked me and was like, "Don't you ever sit there while your brother's getting hurt."
Yeah.
And so from that moment on, it's like.
So if you were to have to do it all over again, would you do it the same? Like if you had the opportunity to get different advice, or would you just live it the same?
I guess it was all worth it. You go through everything to learn and grow. I mean, if I could turn back the hands of time, I would try to learn from a younger age, because I have this perspective now that I say, I'm going this way because this is the way. Jesus is over there, so I'm going that way. What's good is over there. What's right is over there. And I need you to come with me. And then I turn around and go, whether you follow me or not, essentially. But I know how I am, that if I'm there with people I love or I care for, I'm a protector to my core. So even if it's, the person's not right or it's not healthy or something bad's going to happen, and I'm there, I cannot close my eyes to it, and I'll do what I got to do to protect, you know what I mean? But now that I'm older, I have responsibilities. I have children, I have granddaughter, I have a wife. So I used to answer the call at 1 o'clock in the morning and leave the house. I don't do that no more.
I never had brothers, so I don't know that feeling of like the camaraderie. And I've always looked up to like guys that had a group of brothers. I've always seen movies with like, you know, I think that's why I was always drawn to clubs and the street life, is because like you had that group of guys that you all had something in common, and you were all able to kind of do whatever you wanted to do together, and you'd have each other's back. What was the first kind of like run-in with the law, first kind of trouble that you've guys gotten into together? And what was that like?
Growing up, it was different. Before, they didn't wear cameras, so they bullied us, chased us around, beat us up, cops beat us up. But my first time being charged with something, it was actually because we were kicked out of, we had nowhere to go. We were homeless at this point. A friend of mine was actually living with us, and he had a couple dollars, and he's like, oh, I got this plan. I'm like 14 years old. He's like, I got this plan. I used to work at this guy. So he's older. He's like 18. I'm like 14. I used to work at this gas station. We'll get a gun, we'll rob it, and then we'll get a place to live for everybody. So I'm like, all right. So we ended up buying a gun off somebody. He gives me the gun because I'm 14. And then he had this great plan. We drive by the gas station, it's closed. I'm like, oh yeah, great plan. So now, actually, first we stole a car. You know, back then you take a screwdriver.
It was easy.
It was the tilt steering and all that. And we stole a car. So then we're like going through the trunk on right off Newport Ave in Pawtucket, trying to go to somebody in the upstairs seen us, called the cops. So we're leaving that area. They just surrounded us. I had the gun in my pocket and went to training school for a year for that.
So you were 14. What were you doing homeless at 14?
It was just tough. My mom, single mom, no help, bunch of kids. It was tough.
Did you know at the time that you had no money and like you guys had it rough?
Well, essentially I did, because I've seen a lot of, we were talking earlier, I've seen a lot of different perspectives in life. So I lived with my aunt in the summer times, and she was hard working and had a husband, you know, middle class, probably lower to middle class, but middle class. Mm-hmm. Like she had heat and electricity and food and things like that. I mean, they weren't rich. We had clean clothes. But then at my mom's house, you know, we had no clean clothes. At some points we had to like steal to get food. And
now, were you kind of like, man, like step it up? Like, what do we got to do to get out of this?
I started thinking that way probably after I went to training school, because when I went to training school, when you live a certain way, it's normal. So, you know, you starve, this or that. I just think that my aunt's different. Yeah. And I would live that way in the summertime, then go home with where we struggled. You know, we had welfare and all these things. And, you know, 5 kids and one mom, that's not, I don't care how much welfare gives you. You
that's
know,
a lot.
5 kids eat a lot,
too.
You know.
Yeah.
Then, you know, the heat, the electricity, those things would get turned off. You're living in the dark. I remember we were living on High Street in Cumberland. No heat, no electricity, and it was freezing in there. Me and my brothers would just sit next to each other with blankets over us. You could see your breath inside the house, and we would sit next to each other just to keep warm, you know. And then, so, you know, fast forward, I go to training school, and it's like you're in there. It was almost like you ate 3 times a day. I worked out, and then after a while, you know, I got in a bunch of fights and things like that, because when you first get in there, you know, I told you earlier, I'm French and Cape Verdean. My grandfather's dark skin. My mom's, you know, French. So I didn't grow up with the whole looking at white and black and all this. It was everybody was everybody. Then I started seeing a form of racism in there where they're like, oh, white boy this, white boy that. Yeah, bad. So I had to fight a lot.
What year did you get? Were you in there?
What year Tupac died? 94?
94, I think.
Yeah, like 94.
Was that year?
Yeah, so I was in there. It was hard in there, man. It's ugly.
Bad. I was there for a little while.
It's worse than ACI.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's no love. The kids get treated bad, man.
I did 7 days in the ACI, and then I did 4 months in the training school.
Yeah.
And the 4 months in the training school was tough, man. The ACI was nothing compared to that training school. And I don't know if it's because of the age. Maybe it's because like we were emotionally like, what the fuck is going on right now? What is happening?
Well, you're kids.
And you're a kid.
Then I get put in this unit. So by the time I went to the training school, I was turning 16 because I was out on like home confinement and all these things waiting. You know, I started hustling weed. I got caught with weed. So now I ended up doing a year in the training school. But while I'm in there, you know, you get into a bunch of fights. People start to respect you after you're there for a while. I started actually learning how to box while I was in there from a guy named Brooksy Benton and Chuck Sullivan.
They were COs?
Yeah, they were like
Was
staff.
Carlos there when you were there? Do you remember Carlos? But he would always let you do like 3-point contests, and if you won, you'd get Sprite. You'd be able to bring a Sprite back to you.
No, we had Pilk who used to let us fight each other.
Really?
He'd go beep, and we go, ah!
And would he give the winners like a soda
no,
or something?
you just don't go to your room and get locked in or whatever.
Yeah, that dude Carlos used to have us do 3-point shots or half-court shots, and whoever, there was like 3 of us, and the best out of 3, we were able to bring a 2-liter back.
So that's
back
what
to
I'm
our
saying.
cell.
It's good and bad. So while you're there, you know, you're learning from the other kids. This one's a hustler. This one does this. This one does that. This one's in there for murder. So I started learning how to box, and then I started getting respect because I ended up boxing this kid, Rennie Gorman, who actually was in there for killing somebody. He was from Woonsocket. He killed somebody, and me and him boxed. I knocked him out right on the couches. So after that, everybody started respecting me. I started operating, you know, the CEOs respected me, or the staff, they called them.
Yeah,
so
staff,
I would get to walk around the whole property, take out the trash, cut the grass, paint the buildings. I learned how to paint in training school, you know, buff floors, buff and wax floors. And so it was almost like I wasn't even in there anymore, except you see the fences everywhere. I remember I used to take out the trash and stare at the sky, like wishing, like to pretend I was free for a few minutes.
I had this this thing. It was a loading bar on my notebook, and I would open it up every day. So 100%. I did 4 months, and then I did another 6 months at another facility. But it was 4 months, and I would have the beginning and the end, and it'd be 100%, and every mark would be a little bit towards that 4 months. So every day I would wake up and I would color a little bit in at that 100% bar.
It seemed like it was never getting closer.
It was crazy, man. I wish I still had all the letters and stuff, but I ended up losing them in a shoebox somewhere. So you did what was your first bid at the training school?
It was a year. So
you did. So that was your full year, and then you got out and you were an adult.
I came out, now I'm 17. I don't know I can go to school. Like, I'm thinking like high school's done, you know, so it's get a job. So now it's like we're living on Broadway. Me and my brothers, like, you know, doing what we got to do to get by, hustling, whatever. And I'm living with my mom. My brother lives next door. And then I come home one day. There was like a homeless guy sleeping in my brother's bed. The house is a mess. It was just terrible. I left. And I went down the street and I was like, how am I going to get in trouble so I can go back to prison? That's the craziest thing.
Really? Wow. That young?
Because in there, I had Chuck Taylors, clean clothes, food every day. People loved me and respected me. I used to go to like AA. I mean, I didn't have like the drinking and drug problem, but I would go to AANA just to try to learn like why people whatever way. Why did I grow up in this environment? Why are people the way they are? You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Then I would go to Catholic classes, Muslim classes, Christian classes to find out, you know, who is the real God and all these things. So in that process, so like I said, I sat on the curb, and it's funny because a friend of mine from training school pulls up and he goes, and he sees me crying. Like I was like, I'm going to rob something. I'm going to do something because I don't want to live out here. The world is ugly. You know what I mean? So he's like, Todd, I felt the same way when I came home. He talked me out of it. So now, you know, life goes on from there. Struggles, this, that. But
that's interesting, man. What do you think it was that you never got involved with drugs and drinking and stuff?
I did drink. I did get involved. I mean, I was protected. I was actually protected. I think.
Did you have your brothers like, don't do that shit?
I mean, that was big.
Yeah.
Like as far as like cocaine and that type of stuff. But weed, I would smoke and get sick and paranoid and crazy. So I was like,
you know what's crazy is used to happen to me, but I still did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I hear a lot. Joe Rogan said, Joe Rogan, I'm watching him on his comedy. He's like, that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. When he was on the plane. That was crazy. That was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, for like that, an addict's mind, like that's what we.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like
you got to fight it.
Yeah. It's like, you know, you're not supposed to do it, and if you do it, you're gonna feel like shit. But you do it anyway because you think
it was
that,
like almost a peer pressure thing too. Like your friends are
probably it was probably that because a lot of people I hung out with all smoked. They did coke, so it was probably more of a peer pressure thing.
To
just to fit in, I guess.
Out, like do what everybody's doing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't like using that word fit in because I don't think I ever felt the need to fit in, but I guess bored, you could say. Like I was with everybody, they were doing
this
it. So
is what
it's
they're
like,
doing.
This is what we're doing, whatever. So you got out of training school, you were 18 and you started looking into different religions, different faiths. That's interesting that you were
training school. I was
in training
when
school.
I got out. I was looking into the streets, man.
Yeah.
It was getting dark.
So you got in trouble again when you got out, correct? When you were a little bit older?
So now I'm 18 and I get out. I had a problem with somebody. They stabbed me. I almost died. Went to the hospital for that.
Where did they stab you?
In my liver.
Damn.
I had to have an operation, the zipper thing.
Yeah.
Cut you open. I had a drain in my liver. That was close. He said 5 more minutes because I guess, the blood gets filtered through the liver, so I was bleeding out. So I lived through that, and then my brother ends up in prison. I actually was living with my brother.
How did you get brought to the hospital? Like, how did that happen?
Oh, that was crazy.
How'd you get to the hospital so quick?
So I seen the kid I had a problem with, and he's saying this, that. I jumped out, and I was like, I just got out of training school, and I've been weightlifting and boxing, and I'm like, all right. And he's, a lot older than me. So I'm like, yep, I'm going to show him now. So I jump out. I hit him, and at the same time, he stabs me. It was like a buck knife, one of those big buck knives. And he falls on the ground. I'm like, oh, shoot, he cut me. And I ran back to the car, and I go, Ryan, my brother was in the car. He's letting me fight one-on-one.
Yeah.
So I was with Mike Jacinto.
Yep.
You know Mike Jacinto?
Yep.
And my brother Ryan were going to a party. So then I go, Ryan, he cut me, and I went like that, and it just squirted all over Ryan. Ryan goes, and he flips out, and he gets out the car. The kid was like sleeping. He was just getting up, and Ryan's chasing him.
Oh, so you connected with him. You hit him.
I knocked him out.
And he stabbed you at the same time.
Yeah,
damn.
Man. And so Ryan's running now. The kid gets up. He's running. I'm like, no. Let's go to the hospital. Bro, that was the craziest ride of my life. We get in the car. We're driving down Broad Street. Mike Jacinto's like shook, like panicking. So he's driving like 25 miles an hour because that's the speed limit. And then there was one of those walk-in clinics. We like, stop there. We go there. It was closed. Ryan's banging on the window. So now he jumps back in the car. Now we're driving to Memorial Hospital, which is in School Street in Pawtucket, from Cumberland to Central Falls to Pawtucket. So we're driving towards Memorial Hospital. Mike's stopping at the red lights. My brother Ryan takes his shirt off. I went from strong like I am now to I couldn't even speak, and my whole stomach cramped up. And so now he's stopping at red light. My brother starts punching him. Go! now he's racing. He's going left, right. So he goes left down School Street where it's a one-way, but he's going up the one-way. Like we're almost dying on the way to the hospital.
Isn't that funny that you're going to the same hospital you were born at?
Yeah, I know. To almost die. I thought about that, it's funny because I woke up and I was like, as a matter of fact.
Did you end up passing out, losing consciousness?
No, it was March 9th, bro. Biggie Smalls got killed the same day.
That day, same year, same day?
So when I get there, they're like sticking their fingers in me. They're asking me. So now I'm in the street life. The cops come in. They're like, who did this? And I said, get away from me. I said, Mom, get them away from me. I said, they don't care about me. And I'm flipping out.
So your whole family's at the hospital at this point?
My mom was there. So now they're sticking tubes down my nose, up my.
And you're awake.
Bro, I couldn't breathe. I'm like, they're like sticking their fingers in me. I'm wide awake, bro. It was crazy.
So did you eventually go out? Did they eventually?
No, so then they brought me into the operating room and put me under. Yeah. And I was like, all right, now I'm dead.
What were you thinking? Like right when
I woke up the next day and I'm like, wow, Biggie Smalls, this famous person who like had everything, right, in my eyes, because it's Biggie Smalls and I love hip hop, who had everything, is dead. And I woke up and I'm like, why am I still here?
But what were you thinking right when you went under? Like right when
I thought I was dying because when
did you think you were going to wake up again?
No, they give you and it was just like, wow, I'm like halfway through my life.
Did you feel anything?
Half my life was 9 years old at that point.
Did you have any like flashbacks of like your past, or like did you feel anything, or it just happened so quick? I think just
at the moment I was just like, Mom, tell everybody I love them.
Damn.
Like, yeah, because I even asked the doctor. I was like, Doctor, am I gonna make it? And he's like, oh, we're going to do the best we can. I'm like, what? Damn. You can't even be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we got you.
But I guess legally they can't say that.
No, they're very honest about that.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. It's funny how, like, I've been in so many situations where I've jumped out on people and just started fighting out of nowhere. There's this one situation. I was actually on my way to Laz's to get a haircut. Shout out Laz. I love you, buddy. And we were driving, and I looked to my left, and I saw a kid that I had problems with. And I just had a bad day, dude. It was the same day I was supposed to get a job. And I looked to my left, and I'm like, whatever. And something just took over me. I pulled up to his driveway, pinned him up against his garage door. I got out and beat the shit out of him, but he could have had a gun. He could have had a knife. Luckily, he didn't, but he ended up pressing charges on me.
Yeah.
Officer, I don't want to say his name, but a cop called me. I was friends with him, and he goes, Mike, we got it. You know, he's pressing charges. You got to turn yourself in. So I'm like, fuck, man.
That was that emotional response to your bad day.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was. I was having a bad day. I actually remember
feminine emotional response.
I remember what the argument was about, and exactly it was. It was something I would never do now, but I had a short fuse. I got to the police station. My knuckles were all done, and they're like, you know, they arrested me. The kid never ended up showing up to court. Cases got dropped, but I ended up losing a lot of opportunity from that. Yeah. But my point is like we do things without even thinking about them, and you hear stuff like your situation all the time. Yeah. I thought I had the upper hand, but he had a knife.
Yeah.
You know? So what was the recovery like? Like, how long were you in the hospital?
That was crazy, too, because I didn't have medical. I was 18 years old. And so I was in there for like a week, and then maybe like 3-4 days. And then they were like, do you have anybody at home that could take care of you? I'm like, I couldn't even walk. Like, I would have to get up, walk real slow, breathe into this like tube thing because, you know, I couldn't breathe. And so they were like, do you have one? They just wanted me out of the hospital because I was racking up this bill, I guess. Yeah. Like, this kid's going to end up dead anyway, I guess.
It's like $5,000 a day.
So I went home and was kind of laid in bed for a few weeks. Then life got crazier after that.
I know you didn't get out of the street life after that.
No, so then it was kind of crazy.
Were you looking for this kid?
My brother, he caught a bad one, so
yeah,
it don't matter. It was like that was the mentality back then, but hindsight's 20/20, and it was just like it was kind of all the same stuff. It had to do with, you know, the robbery and all that stuff. It's just like I was a young kid, didn't know any better with a bunch of stuff. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know if I seen him and I'd be like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" But
yeah.
I don't really have.
I think knowing you now, if you saw him, you would say hi.
Yeah.
And you would.
I don't know if I would say hi.
No.
I would be like, "You live your life, I'll live mine."
Really?
I mean, you get a lot of PTSD. Like, there's a lot of times in my life where it's like you get this high anxiety where you can't even leave the house. I gotta force myself to leave the house because. You know, I mean, that was one time. Then later on, I was shot. You know, another thing that, you know.
Yeah.
There's been so many incidents where it's like it adds on. I don't carry myself where everybody knows about the PTSD and all that because I fight it. You know what I mean? And I have but
learning from people like you, man, about stuff like that, I think is super important.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people out there who are living with it and they don't know how to express it. And they don't know that people like you have it too. And you know, like,
well, I mean, I didn't get diagnosed, but I understand it. You know, it's almost like if I went to war. So I've been shot, I've been stabbed. I have all metal plates in my face from like fights and things like that. So it's like you understand, like when you see all the I love to learn and understand. You know, why people operate
psychology,
the way they do.
Basically.
Yeah, like psychology.
I think that's Sheena's thing. She was in the military. She served in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so you know.
And I struggle with PTSD as well. Yeah. But honestly, Michael has helped me this last year get past that I can't leave the house stage. He's really been a rock in that area. So it is all psychology. You have to reteach yourself that you're okay, you're safe.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right.
So the coping mechanism at first was to have a few beers before I went out. But the problem with that is I have a few beers. I'm an emotionally strong man. You know, not emotionally strong, but I'm emotional and I'm strong and I'm going out and now problems happen. And then in the streets, I knew a little bit more than everybody else from boxing. So we would go downtown Providence and I wanted to fight. I always wanted to fight, not to hurt people, but to like see how good I can be or like how tough I really think I am or how, you know what I mean? So it was like a sport almost, but it was a dangerous sport.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? I ended up shot over it. Ended up, you know.
What happened that day?
That day we were downtown Providence, you know, doing what you did as kids, clubbing, all that, coming outside. I'm eating a piece of pizza, and then there's this guy driving by, and it's like, I used to it was funny because my friends would, you know, they were looking for girls, and then if there was no girls, there was fights. Me, I was like, I wasn't a troublemaker, so I was like waiting for one of my friends to start a fight because I was like,
that was my friend Anthony. He was the one that started it, and I usually ended it.
So the kid was driving by and he was like looking, and I was like, what are you looking at? Like, pull over. So then he keeps driving up, and then there was another friend of ours, and he goes, you want to get your snot box busted? We all start cracking up laughing. So now I'm walking fast. I'm like, I want to get to him first, right? So he pulls in where the 6th District Courthouse is downtown.
Yep.
So he pulls in. My friend Chris Whitfield goes, hey, Todd, there's a few of us, and there's a lot of us. There's only a few of them. Be careful turning that corner. I turn the corner, boom, boom, boom. He starts shooting. I got shot in the hip and I got shot in the hand. It was a 40 cal gun.
Oh.
And so I'm like, boom, it throws me back, and I just take off running down the street about 4 or 5 blocks. Then I couldn't even walk. It's funny, the cops come, get on the ground. And I'm like, I just got shot.
Yeah.
You get on the ground.
Yeah.
You know,
You get on the ground.
Yeah.
Carry me.
Yeah, like, because they automatically, you know, back then, it's changing now, but back then it was always an attack on us, I felt like, you know what I mean? You know, then they throw me in the ambulance, take me to the hospital. It was crazy. I was crazy, man, because they take me to the hospital, do whatever, clean it out. They didn't take the bullet's still in there because they said it's close to the bone. It would be a bad operation. It might mess me up. So they left it in there. I go home. The next day, I'm at the carousel hanging at my friend's, limping around.
Yeah. I just got shot yesterday.
Yeah, no, the next day I'm out partying.
That's crazy.
You got 9 lives like a cat, huh?
Crazy.
Crazy.
I think God just had something for me. You know, you learn you do all that. You know, then I start hustling. And then fast forward, I have children. Now
did you find success in hustling? Did you make money, like legit, like good money?
I did at one point, not good money, you know.
Sustainable money.
You're watching your back. You're watching for the cops. You're watching for who's going to tell. You're watching for who's going to rob you, who's going to steal from you. It's terrible.
It's definitely not worth it.
No.
I've lived that life too, and it's not it's not worth it. And I
don't, from the top to the bottom, it's not worth it.
It's not. I made a lot of money, but I didn't have anything to show for it. But at the time I did. And it's just like you said, it's just a constant game. So I'm glad that you found something though that wasn't street fighting. So you ended up bringing your talent to the gym.
Yeah, well, I went to prison the last time, and
Did you go to prison for this incident? Was it?
So I went to prison for hustling because I was downtown one night and I got my face smashed in, and I lost my mind at that point. Like, I hated everyone and everything, you know. And I have a backstory for that, but it's like I don't want to hurt no one's, you know, feelings or whatever. Then I was just like, this world is evil. It's gonna be about me and my kids. I started hustling hardcore, and mind you, I always worked. I always did concrete. I would literally get up at 5 a.m, pour concrete, get out of work. If I didn't have to watch my children because my kid's mother had to work, I would go and hustle all night and then buy them whatever they want, pay whatever bills. But then it was party, and it was all the crazy life. And then I was actually set up by a close friend of mine. He set me up. And so now I go to prison, and I'm in prison. And every time I went to, so that was the, you know, 4th or 5th time I'm in prison now. Every time I'm in there reading the Bible. And I'm like, and I remember when I was hustling, I used to be like, God, please don't let me go to jail. Like, I would pray. And then I didn't know if I was going to get killed at any moment because, you know, a lot of fighting, a lot of problems. And I would drive around saying, please forgive me for my sins, just in case someone see me and kill me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always thought that if I ask for forgiveness for my sins, I would make it into heaven. So I would be okay with dying at that point. It was like kind of like a cheat code.
Yeah.
Then I find out later on, like, it don't work like that. You know what I mean? You know, I go to prison. This last time reading the Bible, I'm reading a psychology book. I'm reading the Bible, I'm reading a psychology book. So I'm reading a psychology book. This is the craziest thing. It says, we got, you know, the Pavlov and all that stuff they're teaching you. And they're like, early in psychology, we got to this point, then we found out that was wrong, that got us to this point, that we found out that was wrong, that got us to this point. I literally had like 2 pages left of this college psychology book. I closed it. I said, that's trash. It keeps changing every time. And then you read.
So you didn't like it because the point of view kept changing?
No, the whole theories and this and that.
Because it was so new. They were just barely starting. It's just barely now being accepted. Psychology.
Really? Yeah.
But so in the beginning, there was a lot of different this is that, and then they're like, no, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
This is right, and then this
even
is right.
Even in science in itself,
in
the whole
too.
theory of evolution, it turned my stomach to be like,
we're monkeys?
Answers. What do you mean we're monkeys? We came from single cell
You got to admit, though, that we're pretty damn close to a monkey.
No. All right, I'm a gorilla then.
No, but seriously, the 5 fingers, the toes.
Bro, God created everything.
I believe that. We're
close to dogs too. You know that, right? The anatomy.
And
yeah, but we don't look like dogs.
Pigs.
We don't look like dogs.
And pigs.
My thought is,
I look like a monkey.
I mean, no.
Listen, I know what you're trying to say.
Listen, we eat the
opposable
same
thumbs, though.
Yeah. Listen, we eat the same. We saw some videos on TikTok of these people like walking and dude, it's crazy. So real.
We are pretty hairy too. We are pretty hairy too. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but
there's just similarities.
Again,
I just keep saying God created everything,
which I believe in, right? I believe in God, right? I believe in a God. I know that something created us. I know that something created this earth. I know that something created this universe. I like thinking all the way back to was the moon one time a working star like Earth? Was there ever life on the moon? Was there ever life on Mars? Was Mars one time maybe in our position?
I used to think like that too. It's a rabbit hole.
So is it tough not to go down? So is it tough not to go down rabbit holes when you were getting into your spiritual journey?
No, so that's what happened. I went down rabbit holes, especially with that psychology book and reading the Bible at the same time. So then I'm like, the Bible, like it's all these books with all these different authors over all this time span, 4,000-5,000 years, you know what I mean? And they all literally line up with each other, and it's insane the how the prophecies and the fulfillments and all these things. Like once you get deep into it and you start seeing it, you know what I mean? So it's like this thing never changed. This psychology book keeps changing. So whether there's truth or not in it, which there probably is, right? Chew up the meat, spit out the bones. But I need something that's solid to stand on, or I'm just going to blow around. So that's where faith comes in. So now you say, okay, I'm going to start with something. I'm going to say, all right, God, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to walk in this until I see that it's not true. And then that's when they say faith is the substance of things not seen. And no, faith is the evidence of things hoped for. No, I messed it up. Faith is the evidence of things not seen and the substance of things hoped for. So now when you have the faith, first you have the faith, then you start to see the evidence show itself. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So God is different. So God, in school, we get the lesson, then we take the test. God gives the test.
It's almost like being aware of something
and then
it's like being aware of something and then seeing things that correlate with that thing you're being aware of.
Yes.
That happens all the time when I see something that I'm just learning about, and then all of a sudden it's everywhere.
Now you see it.
It's like, what? Where did this just come from? I didn't even know about this yesterday.
So for me, I had to choose to stand on something, right? Because I'm following the world. I'm going this way. Sell drugs. Don't sell drugs. Work hard. Do this, do that. I didn't have a father. So it's like, how do you raise your kids? You do it this way. You do it that way. Nobody knows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I have an autistic child. There's not a person in this world that doesn't have an autistic child that can tell me how to raise an autistic child.
Right.
You literally have to learn the child.
Yeah.
And then
what is that like?
They kind of raise you.
Yeah. What is that like?
I mean, it's wonderful and hard at the same time. It's beautiful and hard because for my son, he's like extremely intelligent. It's just socially different. But then at night when you're going to sleep, you're like, who's going to be his advocate if something happens to me? So it's hard in that sense.
Yeah.
How old is he?
He's 6.
Wow. That is definitely a lesson.
So there's a spectrum of different autism, correct? There's
it's
a wide range. It's wide.
Which is why no one can teach you how to raise your son.
That's what I was going to say.
What works for this average children is not going to work for my son. You know what I mean?
Does he play video games? Does he have like a tablet?
He has a tablet. He's
smart kid.
He was 3 years old and he knew the whole solar system.
Really?
Like he would say, what planet? This one's hot. This one's cold.
Wow, amazing.
Elon Musk is on the spectrum as well. I really do believe that people that have autism are on a different dimension than us average normal people, because they're really smart. They understand things that an average person might struggle to understand. So it's something has to do with the brain and the spirit they're absolutely not on the same dimension.
I think they have a different perspective of everything, and they're you know how we were saying, we were walking in, we were like, it's just to live life is to be your true self, is a greater life.
Yeah.
I feel like people with autism are more, unless they're being like hurt or abused and things like that, I think they're more of them their true self. So they have a blessed life in that sense.
Yeah.
But living in this world, which is so dark and manipulative and ruled by
judgmental.
Yeah. So that's where the hard thing comes in, you know, to operate in this world where, you know, go to school or, you know, learn, get a job, go home, watch TV, go back to work.
Yeah.
You know, go to college, graduate from high school.
Yeah.
Almost like a system, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
A consumer system.
Very much so.
But
so they live more in the present, day to day. Living life. Yeah.
And they don't lie. It seems like they're just very honest, and they say it how it is. Somebody fat walks in the room, you're fat.
Yeah.
Right? They're pretty true, man.
Yeah, like a 2-3-year-old.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
He
pure
is like
love. That. True pure love.
So
he's funny. The other day my son's like messing with him, and my oldest son's trying to take his phone. He goes, "Don't touch it. That's dangerous." So he's trying to
get him away from
scare him off.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's even greater. Like, so he can. My wife is Colombian, so she speaks Spanish, so she teaches him. But she taught him how to the alphabet. Well, the numbers in the alphabet in French. He taught himself Mandarin.
Wow.
Right?
What?
That's the hardest language.
Yeah, so he taught himself Mandarin,
fluently,
Spanish, English, the alphabet. No, the alphabet and
numbers.
Right, but I mean, still,
he's 6.
Yeah. No, this is when he was like 4 and 5.
Wow.
He could read since he was about 2 or 3. And my wife would never believe me. And his math is crazy. He was doing numbers squared at like 4 years old.
Wow.
So my wife's watching the thing, and she's like, this little boy's doing like the numbers squared. And she goes, "Oh, you think your son's so this and that," joking around. Look at this little boy. I said, "Elias, come here." And then he walked in the room. I said, "What's 8 squared?" He gave me the answer.
Wow.
there's no.
She was like,
"That's incredible. That's so great."
There's no question that they're gifted.
Yeah.
100%.
It's trying to
pull it out of them.
Use their gift in this world the way the world would have it fit is the tough part.
They just can't calibrate that. They can't calibrate the difference between right and wrong, and I think you have to know that difference between right and wrong and be aware of it in order to play the game of life. Right? You
right and wrong as far as what?
Like truth and not truth. Like, you know how they're like kind of not able to tell a lie? Like they're very honest. If somebody walks in and says,
"In the world would have you tell a lie," right?
In the world would have you tell a lie.
Who's right and who's wrong?
That's what I'm trying to get at.
World,
it's like, what is the right way? You know, but like the majority of us know that, so we're able to tell a lie. We're able to play the game the way it's provided to us, and they just don't have that ability to
be fake.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and that's where it really comes down to.
Unless they're taught it.
Yeah.
But
and then it becomes sad, actually.
But it's like they can't learn it because, like, you can see, like, how did we learn it? You know, how do we know?
Living in the world, watching the older people, watching the people who we look to for information.
Right.
And that's you know, the Bible has a scripture. It says, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of the mind, to die to your old self and be made new." That's what Jesus is teaching us, to actually get back to our true self, who God really created us to be. And so, and then it says you know, your latter days will be greater than your former when you make those decisions, those moves. It never says it's going to be easier. You know what I mean? It'll be greater.
Yeah.
You live a more blessed and holy life. You still go through all these things. You still do the hard things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's a blessed way of living, because it's a true way of living, of being yourself, essentially, without all the bad and the messed up stuff. You know, as people, as men, as a man, you know, you see a woman, oh, she's beautiful, right? Then it gets to the point, you're like, you know, you get to an age, you're like, I want to do this and that with that woman. Then you go make money so you could do this and that with that woman. Why do we put on cologne? Why do you try to dress nice? Why do you go to the gym, right? Because you want to attract the other person, you know what I'm saying? So now you start but then it gets manipulated in the world. Oh, you know, make money, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
The songs,
what do you think that's all about, man? Do you think that there's an overall agenda going on and to steer people in the opposite direction of God with these messages that they're giving us?
So this is the thing about me. I'll give my perspective of something, but it's never what I think.
Just
right?
your opinion.
And it's never my opinion. It's what I read and learn from the Bible. And so there's a God of this world, which is Lucifer, who has fallen, and he has his agenda, which is pride, and he wants to take everybody down with him because he's going to a certain place. So this is what people miss, though, is that Lucifer has been there since the beginning, right? So if me and you walk into a boxing gym, because we have boxing experience, we could point out and say, oh, he knows nothing about boxing. He knows something about boxing. Lucifer has been around for thousands of years. So if we think we're slick and we're going to outsmart him, he knows the Bible from front to back, right? He lived it, or he existed during it. You know what I'm saying? So he can take a whole bunch of that, right, which is the truth, mix it in with a lie. Now you have manipulation, right? So now it's like, tell this one this, tell that one that, right? And then once you choose to walk away from God and go towards, you know, your fleshly desires, or, oh, she's beautiful, let me do this, or money, or cars, or whatever it is, or drugs, you know, once you choose to do those certain things and walk in that direction of Lucifer, you go away from God. Now you're easily manipulated, because then you go into like, oh, science and history and this and that. So, and then you have this sacred foundation, which is the Bible, 66 book love letter that God gave us to protect us with divine intervention, and it's made it all the way to here. Like, how many people are we talking about from 2,000 years ago? Why are we talking about Jesus? Why are we talking about Abraham? Why are we talking about Noah and all these things? They made it through all this stuff, through all these wars where, you know, those who win the wars rewrite the history, but that's still here, you know, so I believe it's divine intervention. So now we have this that we can stand on, or you say, oh, that's bullcrap. I'm going to go with the chakras and the moon and the stars and the, you know, and the energy and the vibration and the universe. The universe is literally a creation. God is the creator before all things. And you get this information from these 66 books, right? But then it's, how do you know that's true? Somewhere, at some point, you got to step out in faith.
That's it, right? And it's like, how do you know? Like, we have all this information based on history, based on things that have happened. You know, you go back a certain amount of time, and we can see, okay, this happened. But we all know the telephone game, right? We all know you sit in a circle. There's 10 of you. You start with one truth. You start whispering it in the person to the side of you's ear. And by the time it gets all the way back to you, it could be a different story. It could be differently told. It could be completely not even the same thing. How many versions of the Bible were there, first of all?
There's only one Bible.
But is it the same? Is
so
it
people will say, oh, there's different versions and this and that.
That's just different languages.
There's translations, right? And so the problem with that is you translate it into an English, which is a newer language. It's watered down. Even if you look at like the dictionary now from like 200 years ago, we use less words.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And our meanings for things change. I can't remember specifically what dictionary my brother had, but it was from like 100 years ago or whatever dictionary they used. And then if you looked up the meaning of truth, you know, it said Jesus the dictionary from that. So they take these things out. They take these, it gets watered down.
They are slowly starting to take away Jesus from a lot of stuff now.
Well, I'm not just saying Jesus. It's with everything.
It's
so
the language
it's
itself.
the language. It's watered down. It's weak. Then you go back, like if you say Jesus, right? If someone says Jesus, they'll manipulate you like, that wasn't even his name. Jay wasn't around until 500 years ago, which is true,
right?
right?
Jesus, it was something else.
So his name in his language is Yeshua, right? That's how you would say it. If I say your name in English, it would be Mike. If I say your name in Spanish, it would be Miguel, right? So all it is, so
translation,
the translation. So the problem with it is, though, is that it's watered down, but it's all there. It's still the same fundamentals, you know? Jesus said, they asked Jesus, what's the most important commandment? He said, love your God, your Father, with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. And then the next is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And you can hang everything else on that. Because if we love God and we love each other, then everything else just falls into place. After that, it's manipulation. Then it's like, if I was the devil, right? So you hear these people, they say, if I was the devil, and I knew that, you know, in the Bible, it says that the child of the woman will crush the head of the serpent, right, in the future. If I knew that was going to happen and I was the devil, I would create all these things in Egyptian mythology. I would leave them in books along the way so people can find them and be like, oh, look, this has already happened before. There's already people that have risen. There's already, you know what I mean? It's all this.
Create confusion.
Like if you can fathom the amount, like I'm sure you've manipulated something to get what you want before. Can you imagine that's you in this short life? Imagine if you had thousands of years to manipulate people.
Yeah.
You would be fooled in a second.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying you have to get that solid foundation and you have to stand on it.
I have a question for you. So you said while you were in prison that you, or actually trade school, one or the other, you started reading and going to different like Muslims and Christian and Catholic and getting information from all sources. How did you decide I'm a Christian, or how did you find that point?
That's a good question. When I would go to the Muslim classes, I would be like, how do you get to heaven, right? And they go, you got to do good things. You do bad things, you got to do good things. And I'm like, whoa, you got to do a lot of good things, because at this point, right, I lived such a messed up life, and I used to have to do a lot of bad things just to eat and live. And I'm like, I don't know. So then I started going to Christian classes, and now they were teaching me like doctrine and Jesus did this and this happened and that happened. Like, so it was good information, right? Mm-hmm. Still didn't make sense to me. Like, this guy died and he rose from the dead. Come on, man. Right? All these things, or like he made a blind person see, or he made, fixed leprosy. A person that couldn't walk. So it's like, yeah, I have never seen that. And so then I was going to this Catholic lady. So this is why I don't believe it's religion. I believe it's relationship. This Catholic lady would come in. And like I said, the training school was so ugly and abusive. I would be in the presence of this woman, and she was soft-spoken. She was kind. She was nice. The other kids in there, they'd act up, start arguing. She'd be like, calm down. She'd bring everybody down. It was just, so I literally wasn't learning anything from her words. I was learning from her actions. Wow. And I said, I think that's what God is more like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yep. She was the representative.
It was just like when I would be around her, it was like I would have peace for 5 minutes, because then you're back in there where you could be fighting and stabbed or whatever. It's something crazy, you know what I mean? And so that, and then the other guys, they understood scripture and, like in the way that you were saying, it doesn't make sense and things like that. So they would kind of like break things down to me. And at that point, I didn't really catch on, but it was interesting to like, wow, that's what happened. Like these stories, like the Bible's stories are incredible. You know what I mean?
Some of them are crazy. Really are. Yeah. Crazy. Some of them are unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Why do you think none of that stuff happens now?
I think it does happen every day. I see it. That's what I'm saying. When you walk by faith, the evidence starts to show itself. My daughter had cancer. Matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago was her last year, a couple of weeks ago, she had chemotherapy. Oh. She had like stage 4 lymphoma, right? So it was like she didn't have anything. She had lymph nodes. Then she went. Then they would say it might be cancer. Then it ends up being cancer. Yeah. Then it ends up being stage 4 cancer, right? And I'm falling to pieces.
How old
right?
is she?
She's 27 now. No, she's gonna be 27. She's 20.
Oh yeah, I've met her.
1998.
Yeah, I know her.
What's 98? So,
wow, yeah, 27.
So now I'm like prideful, and I boast in God and my relationship, and I literally, my faith was so weak. And like now I understand, like my pride needs to stay down, because I'm even stronger now because of this. But I was falling to pieces. My daughter was, my life was like terrible. And then I have a baby. I'm like, at one point I'm like, why do we live? Why do we die? What's the sense of life? This is crazy, just to go do a whole bunch of stuff and then die. It doesn't make sense to me, right? My daughter's born. I'm holding her and I'm like, oh, I get it now, right? It's to love. It's like,
to grow.
I have a reason. I have a purpose. Even though I failed in so many ways after that because of what I was taught by the world, I had a purpose. You know what I mean? I had a reason to live. So she's literally my first reason. She gets cancer. I know there's a God. I love God. I don't think he gives this one cancer. He doesn't give that one cancer. He kills this one. He doesn't kill that one in that sense. You know what I'm saying? He allows things to happen because he's in total control. But so now this happens. So I'm not blaming God, but but at the same time, like my reason for life is my first reason for life, because now I have a few, is being compromised. This
You're being
is between
tested.
me, you, and everybody else. I guess I'll just, because somebody else might struggle with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I started, like, I couldn't sleep at night. I was uncontrollably crying. And I was having suicidal thoughts. I was like, I'm not going to die after my daughter. And I was uncontrollably crying. And I started drinking like a pint of liquor a night to go to sleep because I could not go to sleep. And so now I'm getting deeper and deeper, and I'm fighting with the devil. I'm like alone in my room. I'm screaming. I'm praying. I'm doing everything I can. I was battling. I even got to a certain point because I'm so prideful with God that I always be like, F you, Lucifer. And this, I talk a lot of junk to the devil when I'm by myself. I'm like, you ain't got nothing on God. And, you know, just crazy. I almost got to this point where I was going to, because there's a story in the book where, I think it's Job, where you know, God allowed the devil to take everything away from him, his children, his money, everything, because he believed that he would always stay faithful to God, and he did. Yeah. So I was like feeling like, man, I don't want to be Job. So I was getting ready to apologize to the devil for talking junk. It was so crazy, like. So I got to this point, and then I was like, no. And then all of a sudden I'm reading, it's like faith of a mustard seed. If you have faith, if you ask, two or more come together, God is with you. And so I just started to like invoke this faith and speaking it to my daughter every day. Have faith. You're already healed, Kaylin. Then all of a sudden it just, a different peace came over me. It wasn't like a feeling of peace. It was a position of peace that God is in control. And then I had to realize I have to stay faithful to the end, not till my daughter gets better. I had to even, decide that she might even pass. But where's she going, right? Because she loves God. So she's going to heaven. And eventually we're all going to pass and we're all going to go somewhere, right? We all going to stand before the Creator. And you're going to end up holy or hot, one or the other. So I had to understand that I had to stay faithful to the end, even to death, right? So in that, I got a position of peace, not a feeling. So now I'm standing on this position, and I'm like, all right, God, I'm just asking, heal her. Dude, she had 12, these, what do you call it, chemo?
The chemotherapy,
yeah. She lost her hair, getting sick, skinny, the whole time. This is the craziest part about, this is what I'm saying, the evidence shows. And I'm not showing her, and I can say it now because she's better. I was folding under pressure.
What do you mean
My
folding?
daughter was getting up. Bro, she was, oh, man. She was washing her face, putting on her makeup, taking care of her daughter. You know what I'm saying? This is a tough story, but she was taking care of her daughter. And she was doing all these things, and it's a scripture it reminded me of. It's like, it's to have that, it was to have that faith even in those times, to not be like, like they talk about fasting. And when you fast, you don't go around, oh, I'm fasting, I'm sick, I'm tired. You go around and I'm strong, God is good. And this woman was literally fasting in life and like getting up and putting on a happy face and making people laugh and making people smile. And so fast forward, she has her last chemo. She goes in for that. There's like a thing that they put like this dye in your body. It's terrible. Put this dye in your body and then they tell you, if there's any signs left. So she goes to the appointment, and I'm like waiting for her to call, and she calls me because I'm speaking like, we got to speak it into existence. You got to speak it. Yeah. You got to believe it, because it's not only just speaking it. You got to literally believe this stuff, and you got to know that God is in control all the way to the end. And once you don't pray over and over, God, please, God, she's healed. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Months before this. So now she gets out of the thing, and we've been having these discussions and living, no, we're going to keep our head up. We're going to keep our chest out. We're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to believe God is Jehovah Rapha. That's how I learned that. It means God the healer, Rapha. So we would say Jehovah Rapha. And then, so now we got to this point where she went to this meeting and she gets out, and I'm at work, and I'm waiting for this call, and I answer, and she goes, Dad, I'm healed. There's no more cancer. I dropped to my knees. I started crying. I was like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And then right after that, she goes, Dad, I just had the test. They didn't give me the results yet, because she heard what I was doing, I guess. And I go, it's okay. You're healed anyway. So like just having that faith. And then she calls me 4 or 5 hours later. Hey, guess what? And I was like, you're healed. She was like, I'm healed. There's the evidence. Bro. And I know it's like, you were looking for all this or that. It was the chemo or it's this. No, it's the faith, man. And once you have faith like that, that's just in that huge thing for me, that I went through this whole process. She went through her process, which brought her closer to God. I went through this process to strengthen my faith. You know what I'm saying? So we're all going through these things and these journeys. So that's why it's like, your first question, would you change anything, right? Essentially, no. The only thing I would do differently is try to learn a little faster now. You know what I'm saying? Because if I change, do I have my children? Do I have my wife? Do I have the experience? Do I have the knowledge? Do I have the relationship with God, which is most important?
Man. Yeah, speaking things into existence is massive. It's
but believing too.
Yeah, I guess
not just speaking it.
I guess there's
believing it right here.
Yeah, because there's a lot
and then being thankful. Thank you, God. Never even happened yet, but it happened.
We actually do all of those things, but we never really correlate it with God, I guess. We
so you're missing out on the power, man.
Yeah.
You're using it like fasting, right? This is what I try to tell people. When you fast, how much good comes from that? It eats away like cancerous cells. Your body attacks all the bad cells in your body.
Is that
first.
super important in the Bible? Do they fast?
Of course.
I thought that was just a Muslim thing.
No, Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights.
So
food and
when
water.
Are you supposed to fast?
That's between you and God.
Oh, okay.
But
like Muslims have the certain.
But when you fast.
Yeah, they have Ramadan. Which,
yeah.
But it is like what he's saying is it's a personal journey, no matter how many people are in your life. And so if you're something in your body saying, I need to fast to get through this experience, or right now I just feel like I need to fast. Like sometimes you said, I feel like I need to fast.
That's why I'm resonating with
you have to, that's your connection with God on a different level, saying something's going up. You don't know what exactly is happening, but something's telling you need to fast, and that'll get you to the next chapter.
Yeah.
So
all the time it happens to me.
Well, the growth is done in it too, because I remember when I first started fasting, a friend of mine, Jaylon, his testimony is crazy too, like evidence. And so we were hanging out a lot, going to different churches. I like to go to different churches, see different like perspectives and learn from different types of people. So we go in different churches. And then one day I was like trying to offer him something. This is how you're supposed to fast. I'm like, yeah, eat this. And it was like, I'm like, bro, how come you haven't eaten nothing all day? He's like, oh, I'm fasting. It's not, you don't go around, oh, I'm fasting.
Yeah, you're not looking for sympathy. So you're going through a process.
So now I'm like, now put yourself around like-minded people and grow and learn, right? That's what this whole podcast is. So when someone gives you something, you're like, oh, fasting. How did you do that, right? So he's like, well, for whatever days from sun up to sundown, I don't eat, no matter if I'm working, sweating. I don't eat and I don't drink, but you can choose not to eat or choose not to drink. So I literally did it one day. So I'm on a job, dying, sweating. And so this is what I learned. So now when you're starving and you're hungry and everything to your core is taken away from you, what could fix the problem, you know what happens? Other internal problems start to be fixed, emotional problems. So now I'm praying and I'm like, God, I'm sorry, I'm hungry, please help me, this and that. And then I'm like, I know I'm supposed to love God, right? This is a while ago. And I'm like, I love you, God. And, you know, speaking to God. And I'm only saying this is a personal thing with me and God, but for people to learn, I'm saying I love you, God. And it felt weird for me to say that, right? Like fake almost. Like,
why?
Because I look at God the Father. I call God the Father, right? I never had a father where I would be like, I love you. It's easy for me to say to my mom, I love you, or my aunt, or a woman, my wife, I love you. To say it to like a father figure is weird to me. You know what I mean? I never had that connection. So while I was fasting, I understood that I literally have some work to do in that area. You know what I mean? And I was fasting because, you know, if you believe in God, you're supposed to fast. Then when I fasted, I understood and found out why you're truly supposed to fast. Then I started learning after all the benefits of the physical benefits, right?
Right. Allowing your organs to rest and recuperate and not work gives them that rest so that you can heal faster from within.
I always bring up the scripture to my wife. I say, husbands, give yourself over to your wife physically, and wives, give yourself over to your husbands as to not cause each other to sin, right? And it says, always give yourself over except in the time of prayer and fasting, because you even fast from that just to spend time with God. So now this is why I want to bring you back to what I was saying. Things can work, right? So when you say we speak it into existence, it's God created it to be that way. We're part of the creation. So if you speak it into existence, you see it work, right? You say essentially, I'm not doing it based because of God.
Right.
But if you fast, things can work. It could heal you and physically and all these things. But what's more important is the spiritual aspect of it and the internal aspect of it. Because I fasted and found out I had an issue internally, spiritually, or like, you know, mentally or whatever, right? Emotionally. I found out I had these issues. And at the same time, the world goes backwards, right? Like I said, the devil knows the truth from beginning to the end. He mixes it all up. No, just fast for this reason, right? Let's leave God out of it. Just fast for this reason. So now you're physically getting better and it's working, but you're not getting everything. The power is way over here. You're leaving everything out. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying not to go at it from an angle of like, oh, I want to fast because I want some benefit from it?
No, you're going to benefit from it. But
don't go into it trying to benefit from something? Is that
no, you can. You just not trying to, you know you're gonna. But what I'm saying is if you leave God out of it, you're missing out.
Got you. Yeah.
You're missing out on a spiritual
benefit,
like healing and or perspective or view that you didn't even know was there. I'm literally working. All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, it hit me. Like God just said it to me, you know, like in a way that it's just like you understood, like, oh, I got an issue, right?
That's crazy, man. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we do, it's
aligned with it.
Yeah, I feel like every time I talk to you, you have amazing knowledge and wisdom that you share. Did you learn all that just from reading the Bible and going to different Bible studies and kind of just?
I think
because I have a hard time retaining this kind of stuff.
I did too. So that's another thing that happened. Had more evidence. I was always wanted to know more, and I think it was selfishly. I wanted to be somebody who can speak on a intelligent level because I grew up so bad, so messed up, white trash from CF where everybody just views you in a light, and I knew I wasn't that, so I wanted to be viewed in a different light, and I understood at a certain point that I'm walking out and stepping out in faith, so I kind of wanted to know more things of God, and I always knew since a small age. My aunt had a Bible on her dresser, and I was like, there's something in there that's powerful, and it could, like magic or something, you know what I mean? That could teach you or grow you.
I used to think about that with stocks.
Really?
You know, completely off topic, but when my grandfather used to read the paper and read the stocks, I used to look at it and be like, there's something, I have to learn that.
Yeah.
And I used to pretend to look at it and like understand it. So I'd be like, yeah, I know what this is. But I used to try so hard to like break everything down and what is this and why is it? but I never was able to retain it until one day it just clicked, you know, and I'm hoping to get that from a spirit. I'm waiting for a day that I can spiritually just feel that whatever, because what I notice with every Christian, right, is that you guys truly love this. You eat. My grandmother's the same way. She is just so devoted. Her life is so devoted and consumed by this, and I feel the love from it. Every time I'm around her, every time she speaks about it, I feel it. I feel how powerful it is. And I get jealous of it, I guess. Like I want to feel that.
So I think what I would do is what I did. I was laying there one day and I would read the Bible and I'd be like, this is hot. Because I was diagnosed with ADD when,
it's the thing.
when
I
nobody
read that,
was
I can't even
diagnosed with
understand
it.
it.
So I have to read things a couple times. But what I did is I stopped and I was like, God, please help me understand this. Please help me retain this, and not like everything else where it just comes and goes. And literally the next day I woke up, I was reading the Bible. I was like, oh, I know what he means by that. It was crazy. It
one
hit
day.
me.
Really?
I swear, the next day. And then I was like so excited that I understood that I had the Bible app. And, you know, this is when I first made the Bible app. I would hook it up to my radio in my car. I'd drive to work, drive home from work, like always playing it. And it was just like, wow, I'm understanding. I was so excited to finally understand. You know what I'm saying?
I got like that with stocks. I got like that when I started finally understanding like how to read a chart or what a short and a long is. I was like, man, I got obsessed with it. And
call on the power of God, bro.
I will.
By yourself in
the
closet.
I'm gonna try. I will.
Just say, if you're real, show me you're real, please.
Because listen, I'm not on this podcast because I told you from the beginning, and I've always told you that there's something pulling me in that direction.
Yeah.
There's something that's pulling me in a spiritual direction. Right now, we're working on a project in Rhode Island that I think is going to be monumental. I think the team that we're putting together right now is special. We're looking to put together some sober houses. We want to put together a village, a program where we can take and help people off the streets that have an issue with substance, mental health, and give them an option to learn about how to get acclimated back into society, learn the power of like being a villages. We want to have gardens. We want to have this
is crazy.
And this is true.
No, crazy because I've been thinking about this for years.
Really?
We would love to have you
building, because I do these ICF things, like building greenhouses,
Yeah.
building a house where they could live, they could work there if they want to stay
we
there.
were just having this conversation.
We had this meeting
morning.
today.
Wow,
today.
That's crazy.
So now we're on the second process. We have our team. We're on the process now of trying to figure out how we're going to get funding. Investors, federal grants, government grants. Now we're on that process because at the end of the day, and this is where I think I'm going to be good at, and the team that we're putting together, we have the people who have the vision, right? Which could be you. Sheena has good vision. I'm really good with business, and there's this other woman that we're getting involved that's good admin, good business, and then there's another woman that is already in nonprofit organization. She's helping the homeless with housing, clothing, food, and she's another person that we're bringing to the table that has great value. Ed Brady's going to be part of the process.
Oh, wow.
We have a really good team, man. We'll talk off air a little bit about it.
Yeah.
But just your name alone in Rhode Island, it means something. So when you do say something, it carries weight. So I think having you on the team, man, would be huge.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
incredible.
Huge.
And like you were saying earlier, like with you and your daughter and dealing with cancer, really it took both of you thinking in the same way to make that happen. Because when you were struggling with your faith, you looked at her and saw that she was still waking up, taking care of her daughter, putting her makeup on, putting her first forward.
Powerful.
So both of you together made that happen. And all of us together can make mountains move.
Oh, yeah. But this is one piece of advice I would have for that. Get your relationship with God, because you step into that, the enemy is not going to like it at all.
I know.
At all.
And you know what's crazy?
You
One more
step
thing
into
about
a
that.
marriage, the enemy is not going to like it at all.
Yeah.
You step into anything that God calls holy and just and righteous, the enemy is not going to like it at all.
The enemy attacks from...
He's okay when you're out doing this, doing that, drugs, drinking, partying.
I'm going to say right now, it was so much easier when I was a drug addict.
He left you alone.
Ignorance is bliss.
Leave him alone.
The relationship I had with I won't say certain people was much easier because I was below them, right? And maybe that's just my process of thinking, but yeah, man, there was no problems. Nobody wanted anything from me. Nobody wanted, there was just nothing.
No conflict.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But we started gaining a little bit of
Except
traction.
the conflict inside yourself.
Yeah. But here's another thing that's crazy about Veterans Village is that the property we're looking at right now, it's 100 acres in Exeter, and we're meeting up with a woman who wants to start some type of a cancer.
Yeah, she wants cancer rehab or
rehab to be a part of this whole process.
Yep. And we didn't actually this morning when we were speaking about it with the other two partners, and he brought up the fact that she wanted cancer. He kept saying, well, maybe there's a way we can incorporate that. And, you and your daughter are those people that have that firsthand, experience and could lend us that information. How can we help people that are dealing with cancer? What is it that they need? What is it that they need at that time?
Yeah.
Because nobody knows.
That's the perspective I have, like, about being an autistic parent. It's like nobody really asks the parent. A lot of your friends would be like, oh, do this, do that, or something like that.
Yeah.
What did you actually need? Somebody go and do something like that.
And even with I was thinking earlier when you're talking with autism, being a parent of that child, you're always going to be the parent of that child because they need that parent forever. School ends at 18. You're always
the parent of all your child.
You're always, but you're going to have an adult with you for the rest of your life because when they're 18, they're not going to just go on their own. Yeah, depending on the severity of it.
That's the spectrum they talk about.
But same with the sober house and same with cancer treatments and rehabs and other places. People need help and guidance forever sometimes. And that's what the liaison would be.
To give them skills and things.
Yeah. We want to do the garden, like you were saying. We want a garden in the center so you can harvest your own food and appreciate the food you're eating. Yeah. And then we want animals. Animals are healing. It's also another job, a skill that they can be taught and, get them into the next level, which is having their own apartments. And so we could venture into Section 8 housing and get people to those each and every level.
And, Section 8 housing.
Ooh, you guys trying to get assassinated.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if it happens, it happens. I'm going, when I go all in on something, I go all in. And I don't.
Me too.
It is what
That's why I'm smiling. I'm like, my kind of people.
We're ready.
There's another issue I would say. A divided house will never stand.
No,
right?
True.
So where do your morals and your values come from, right?
That's the tough part because at the end of the day, it's a business. Is that what you mean?
That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah, no, it's a business, man.
Who you bring in to doing something like this, and what is your purpose? Why are you doing it?
So here,
are they doing it for the same reasons? You know what I'm saying?
That's why you have to have both sides.
Yeah, you have to have multiple people.
And this is where we were talking about earlier.
Both sides of what?
You have to have people who think business, and you have to have people who
who know business.
Yes, and you have to have people who
work from their hearts.
Are working from their hearts, right? Because you can be both, but it's very hard to be successful in both if you're in one and out the other. You know what I'm trying to say?
You need money. Money.
It's balance.
It's not truly the root of evil if you're using it to benefit others, and so you need it.
Yeah. It says the money is the root of many evils.
Right.
Many evils, not of all.
Listen,
evils.
In a project like this, you have to think realistically. There needs to be a revenue stream. In order to do these things that we want to do, help people, my big thing is like helping people build their credit and like understanding what credit is and how to LLC themselves and how to start a business. And like a lot of people have the skills, but they don't know which way to turn because they've lived in the streets so long that like they don't know about that shit. That's something that we could provide, but that's
along with education, religious, like people
eating
still
right,
need
training.
everything.
There's something similar to what you guys are thinking of. It's called Teen Challenge. It's a faith-based program. People that are on drugs and drinking and all that type of stuff. They go live there. They give them a skill set. They teach them the word of God. I think it's really successful because they stand on that book and that, it's not like you get into this and it's like a Muslim and a Jewish and a Catholic and a this and a that. They just stand. It's not a Saturday evangelist or
right. It's non-denominational.
It's even more than that, just like a relationship type situation, biblically foundation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So a divided house will never stand. So it's like your key people, like God can use who God wants to use, right? So your key people all have to be on that same page with that God in charge, right? So if me and you have a disagreement, we go to what is lawful and truth, and then we stand on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's not like I feel this way about this.
Do you think that could get in the way of? Do you think that
could
get in the way of building a business, though?
Yeah, of course.
I think it does,
because the world's perspective of business is not a righteous, like, godly
I know.
one.
That's
it's feast or famine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you don't stand on that anyway.
Yeah.
If God is in control, it says if God is for you, who can be against you? Nobody.
Yeah.
When you say nobody, my body, not even me. If God is for me, who can be against me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You said something earlier that I want to touch on really quick. You were talking about being emotionally present because of growing up without a father. Touch on that a little bit and like what you meant when you were telling me, and could you rephrase that again?
About the the sensitive.
Yeah.
Well, I came to realize a while back, I went through some stuff and I was just like, why do I feel like this? Why do I respond like this? And I'm still working on it. See, this thing is like a marathon, not a sprint. It's a lifelong process. So people always like, I want to get better. I'm on my healing journey and all these things. No, you're on your life. You know what I mean? So it has to be always a choice. So when I started to think about these certain things of how society is now and the way, there was actually, it kind of started with like the inner community, like the blacks, Latinos, white trash, or poor white people. It started with them where they separated the fathers out of the home. Even in slavery, they would like take the fathers, he'd work there. They take the mothers, they're working in the house. The separation from the children, it all kind of started, or even with welfare. When welfare and all those things started, the man couldn't live in the house.
Right, they take away your funding.
Yeah, they take away your funding.
If men lived in the house?
If the men lived in the house.
I didn't know that.
So the women were like, well, he can't provide enough, so let's just get rid of him.
Wait, was this not too long ago?
Well,
it's been within the last 3 decades.
Yeah, 50s and 60s.
Okay.
When welfare started and all that. So now the Section 8 and all that, you can't have a man living there and all these things, right?
Yeah.
So now it was like separation from the father. So now even like custody, think of custody court, like as soon as you go to court, the mother has the child first, right? And there's statistics saying that there's the rate, the crime rate, the drug addiction rate, I don't know this. I'm just paraphrasing, I guess.
Yeah, you don't have to.
The statistics for a mother raising a child or children, the homelessness, the drug addiction, and all these things that come with it are at a greater percentage than if both parents are raising the child, right? But if a father raises a child, this is crazy. If a father raises a child, the percentage is less than both, but closer to both than if a mother raises the child.
Interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah. So now you have the mothers, they're teaching the mothers, be independent, be this, be that, and all these things that, there's a mom will say, he doesn't want to be with me, then he doesn't have to be in his kids' lives, right?
Right.
So that's another thing. It's almost child abuse because a father teaches one way and the mother teaches a total different way, but they actually complement each other.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So then they did another study where it was like 90-something% of all the world's problems can be related to an absent father, whether he didn't want to be present, whether mother didn't let him be present, or he died, or he just wasn't emotionally present in the household.
Yeah.
90-something% of all the world's problems can be related to that,
Yeah.
right? So now I believe for me, it's always spiritual. There's a spiritual attack on fathers being in children's lives, right? I just said it, a divided house could never stand, right? Divide and conquer. So we break up the family of the home, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at in the beginning when it was Adam and Eve, right? When Adam went away, the serpent slithered in. He waited for them to be separate because together they're strong.
Yeah.
So he waited for them to be separate and then enticed the woman because the man loves the woman so much, right? That's why it's a slippery slope. And the woman you choose is so important, or the man you choose, because the woman was like, no, just do this.
Yeah.
And then it went further to say, God said, what are you doing? And then this is, I believe, the fall of man. He said he blamed the woman that you gave to me. He blamed God. He blamed the woman, right? But the woman essentially has the birthing pains and all that because of she was the one to pass it on to the man after doing what she did. But my point is the devil waited for them to be separate. Now the devil's separating them out of households, throwing them in prison if they're not paying child support. You got men that pay child support for children that are not even theirs in some instances where they were the father on the birth certificate, but then DNA said they weren't. They still got to pay child support.
Yeah.
So it's a money thing. It's a separation thing. And so this agenda is being pushed, right? And now I don't want to go that way for your show, just in case. I don't care.
Go with it.
Yeah,
the whole agenda is being pushed with, a man and a man having a baby or a woman and a woman having a baby, right? Where I'm not saying people can't love and teach, but I'm just saying there's two different roles that complement each other, and it's literally child abuse. Unless in a severe situation where somebody is so abusive that you have to protect your child from them. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that decision should be essentially made when you're procreating. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which we all fall short, right? But if you're going to live, learn, and grow, then you got to look at these type of things and assess them and make changes.
What does the Bible what does the Bible say about transgenders? Is there even transgenders in the Bible?
I mean, it says there's a bunch of different things.
Were they recognized back then?
There's a strong delusion. I think that's a newer thing.
Yeah, it wasn't even in. I mean, if I had to guess, I wouldn't think it would be.
God gave us over to our worldly desires. So I believe people are born a certain way, attracted to certain things. Like
definitely.
Before I was married, so a woman sleeping with a woman, me sleeping with a woman, equally the same before I was married, right? Because God calls us to be married and be in union and all these things. Or me, if I had a desire to smoke crack, it would be equally the same. It's a fleshly desire. You know what I'm saying? Is it good for us? Does it produce good fruit? Is it healthy? Can a woman have a baby? No, but if two women live together and love each other and care about each other and help each other through this hard life, I really don't see it. How is that bad? Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. Or a man and a man. It's an abomination when two people are trying to procreate without being able to procreate.
That's my question.
And so that's the attack now. So now it's like, if I promote this thing, right, now we have babies born in test tubes or all out of whack and all now, like I said, the division, mother and father. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, oh, you don't need your father, even though he's the one that implanted that semen inside me through a doctor or whatever. Now he's got a mother and a mother. Now he's got a father and a father. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I guess I wouldn't know enough. I wasn't born attracted to the same sex. So I think I know that people are born feeling a certain attraction, right? Do
you think that's like something that they're born with at birth, not having a certain DNA makeup of because a heterosexual man, I'm attracted to women. You're attracted to women. Sheena's attracted to men. That's usually how it is. Do you think that there's something that just is not connected in our DNA that makes? Because
I don't know if it's DNA or if it's hormones. Because
hormones, maybe. Okay, so there's a lot of kids that I've known when I was younger, and I'm like, that kid's gonna be gay because you could just tell by his mannerisms. He's very feminine.
His testosterone levels are probably below low. So what do? They feed him estrogen because he's already got a lot of estrogen. Give him more estrogen Now he can't even have kids when he gets older.
Yeah.
It's definitely a DNA thing because back in the day, before they had all of this genetic testing, if a hermaphrodite, which is a person that's born with both a penis and a vagina, if a baby was born like that, then the parents were allowed to decide at that moment if they wanted a baby girl or a baby boy, and then they'd have surgery. But what they found over time is that baby, the DNA within it, if they decided they wanted a little girl, but she wants to beat her brothers up, she's playing with trucks, she wants to do sports, she has the XY. So it's definitely, it boils down to DNA for sure. But then what we have now is the added pressure. Like, look at our Olympics this year. We have the added pressure. Our children are seeing what they think is normal, but it's not. We have transgenders dancing on stages and not really doing anything with Olympic sports, which takes a lot of testosterone for men in the Olympics to win those types of games. We have breakdancing now instead of like javelin. Things are all funky. So on top of DNA, now we have our society who's had the agenda for years to separate the man and woman to begin with. It's just there's so much of the devil, Satan, that side pushing against us to be more on the normal end. So it's a two-part deal. It's DNA, but it's also society and the way things are taught.
Yeah, because you got to like wonder sometimes, like, how can people be that shitty?
Yeah.
How can people just be that shitty to want to cause separation like that?
Because they made more workers.
It's an agenda. It's trauma. It's generational curses.
But is that the devil just speaking through them?
If you think about it, it's just set up to it's the destruction in itself. If you think about it, like somebody will be molested as a kid and not be homosexual but then they'll do that when they get older. Yeah, that same thing.
Yeah,
like they've taught. Interviewed. Yeah, it's almost like from the trauma of it. It almost they end up they wonder, am I gay or am I this or they do it to the next person because it was done to them,
right?
And they think it's normal. So it's almost like I said, you take God out of it. God says this is normal. You go outside the normal. Now everything else comes from it. So I think a lot of things are like I said, be transformed by the renewing of the mind and getting back to, the love and the things like that. It's not like getting back to the structure and the rules of God because God said so. It's more because like if you have a dog and you have no fence in your yard and you put him in the yard, he runs out into the street, he gets hit by a car. But if you put up these rules and these laws is to protect the dog.
Yeah.
So the whole thing that these things that God put in place for us is literally to protect us from ourselves and our fleshly desires and our worldly desires. Because since the beginning, God told us don't do this. We did that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's been, this was a great podcast, man. I appreciate you being vulnerable and speaking the truth. And
I got caught in the moment.
No, but dude, I mean, that's like
real.
People.
If I can help somebody, that's my thing.
Yeah.
Like, so many times through life, I remember I would just be like, I wish someone could help me. And there was just no one there because at the time I didn't have God. Now, like I said, I have a position of peace now. So I'll go through things, get frustrated and this and that, and then I have to remind myself, nah, God's in control. So imagine the power you get from that. No matter what you go through, and you can have that position of peace. No matter what happens, it won't be hard. I mean, it won't be easy. It may hurt. It may, make you feel some type of way. I struggle with anxiety, and like I was saying earlier, with the drinking, I ended up actually going to a friend of mine who became a doctor, and he prescribed me anxiety medicine, so I didn't have to do that no more. So I took that for a period of time, when need be, and then it helped me get to the point where it's like, so I believe like drugs and things like that, or, canes or whatever. I believe like this, like if you go to church and you're like, your life's falling apart and you walk in, the church should hug you and love you, right? But if you come in next week and you're talking about the same thing, right? And the church will hug you and love you, but you keep coming day after day, week after week, month after month, I'm literally giving you a crutch. I'm hurting you by saying, no, it's okay. Yeah. No, it's not okay. It's time to change. Time to stand up. Time to do the right thing. Time to do what you're called to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So essentially, drugs is the same thing. They give it to you when you have your knee is hurt or your anxiety's out of control, right? But all it does is cover up the pain. It doesn't get to the root of the problem. We need to get more to the root of the problem. You know what I'm saying?
That's actually what we touched on for the sober houses as well. We don't want to be that traditional sober house because sober houses actually enables people to just...
Yeah, they give you the Suboxone.
Yeah.
Now you don't even work on the problem. You're like, I feel great.
Yeah.
It's
right.
I'm not sick.
So we do, like you were saying, what your question, well, what is the foundation? What are the morals? And with our vision, it's a step above the sober house. We want people to be independent and independent with themselves, their lives, and get back on track, not a Band-Aid.
That is important. That is important with us. We don't want to just be another crutch.
Couch, no couch surfers.
We want to work on...
Or if you do that, it's all done in vain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's done for alternative purpose, motive.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
It's done in vain.
What's the biggest thing?
Especially if it was done for money. Money, I always tell people, like, they're like, they're hurting, going through something. They're like, I just need work. And I'm like, you think money is going to solve your problems? I said, all right, check this out. I'm going to give you $1 million right now, right? But then you're going to die tomorrow. You're going to take it? They're like, no.
Yeah,
I was like,
course.
so your health is more important, right? Your life is more important.
Yeah.
Then I say, I give you $1 million right now, and your son's going to die tomorrow. Nope. So now your children are more important. And then you say, all right, you could just keep making scenarios that go on and on. Money is so far at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
And
it's a tool.
The same thing like with my fighting career. When I started doing that, they were like, oh, we'll give you 200 fights. 200. I said, you're going to pay me to fight? I love fighting.
Yeah.
I was excited, right? It wasn't even about the money. It was just, and you're going to pay me? It was like, but then all of a sudden it becomes about the money. Now it's a job. Now I hate to go to training. It's work. It's this, it's that. I'm not getting paid enough, and then you lose sight, right? It has to be about the goal, man. It has to be about the purpose. Once it's the purpose, everything else comes.
So I think one thing that I've been telling you for a while now is I need to find something where I have a purpose. Running the businesses is great. I got a business here. I got a business there. They're very successful. We're bringing in a lot of money, but I still feel something needs to be filled. I still feel like there's a different purpose. Remember I spoke with you months ago? Maybe last year at this point. It was right when I started, because I've been clean now for 2 years, right? And before that, I was out for 10 years. I was in and out, saying, "Hey, Todd, bye, Todd," for 5 years. Hey, Todd, you know what I mean? It was just like that. Was like
we first started hanging out. It was like we had a whole crew. It was like a Thursday night crew or something like that.
And we would go out.
Was it Wednesday or Thursday?
I don't even.
It was
remember.
a random night. It would be like 10 of us.
Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah.
Laz,
I saw your brother
Tim.
knock somebody out and face first into a puddle. That was wild. We were all used to just we were looking for fights, man. Basically,
excitement. In life.
Yeah. But there's something that is telling me, and there's an energy pulling me, saying I need to be filled with purpose because I didn't go through all this shit for nothing. I can't. I have to make sure, not make sure, but I have to. I feel like I was put here for something, for some type of message to help other people. And I'm searching for it, whether it's through this podcast or through this new thing that we have. There's always, recently this last year, I've been strictly trying to find a purpose on where my life is going to serve some type of purpose. And I told you that last year when we spoke, I'm like, man, and you had said, some God, what'd you say? You said, God favors many, but there's some are chosen.
Many are called, few are chosen.
Right. And you said you may be chosen. And he's, because you said you were like, you're able to kind of come out of nowhere and you have all of a sudden things just align. And
no, I fall short of the glory of God every day. Things don't align. It's just so you understand, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like Einstein will say, if you have a problem, and you got 10 hours, you spend 9 hours on the question to ask for the problem, and then you spend an hour on the solution, right? And on the, after you asked all the questions, so right now I have all the questions, I'm getting all the answers from the right source, and now I'm in the process of fixing it. You know what I'm saying? I have the questions, I have the answers.
Yeah.
You know, and if I get more questions, I'll ask more questions, right?
Yeah.
I tell everybody, like, say you're on doing drugs and all these things, and your life's falling apart, and then you realize these two things where it's like you accept accountability, and then you choose to do the hard things, those first two things, and then now you have, right, as soon as you accept accountability, now you have all these answered questions. Well, I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be doing that. So now from getting from here to here is easy because you have a whole list of things you shouldn't do, right? Then once you get here, I found myself at this point, right? All these things I shouldn't do. Now I'm here. I'm like, what's next? Now it's what do I do? Now I got to find the questions of what to do now. You know what I'm saying?
How do you give your knowledge to others? It sounds like you're saying, like, okay, I've gotten to this point. Now, how do I give it back? Like, how do I help others get through those moments?
What's the next best thing?
Yeah,
I think doing stuff
can't
like
keep
this,
it to yourself.
No,
I think doing stuff like this.
Like, I have so much knowledge of fighting, of how to destroy a human body.
Right.
It's literally useless now, right? I don't train nobody. I don't teach nobody. Sometimes I'll show people some certain things. I literally fought professionally for 10 years. I have 24 professional fights. Next time you're watching UFC, most people you see won't have 24 fights. I have 24 professional fights. I have a world title. All this knowledge from all these things. I do have the work ethic and all these things that I teach with all these moves, and you should do this and go this way and go that way and apply pressure here and throw a punch like this. It's all useless knowledge unless I give it to somebody.
Right.
I'm literally waiting for someone to say, hey, Todd, can you make me a UFC champion? And then they're all in, and I'll be all in.
Would you do it?
I would 100%.
Really?
I literally have all this stuff where I'm like, it's useless.
Why don't you go?
Maybe you should be the one looking for
them.
them.
Why don't you put yourself in that position?
I've trained and I taught, and people will show up for 6 months, get punched in the face. They don't show up no more.
Yeah.
Or they have all these excuses. Oh, work, this, that. Nah, with that right there, you're all in or all out.
Yeah,
you could die.
Yeah.
You could die in there. And I'm not half-stepping with nobody. If you want me to help make you a champion, you literally have to do the work.
Yeah.
All I have is instruction. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like I think about those things, like what's next? Like, how do I give this, all these lessons? Like if someone was to say to me, I want to be a fighter without me having to coach them, I would say find somebody who fought before, lost, won, went through the whole thing, or somebody who won and did it that learned from somebody who lost and went through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because people will always like, oh, he's a great fighter. That doesn't make him a good coach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
He doesn't know about the failure part. He doesn't know about the promoters. They're hugging you and patting you on the butt and telling you all these things. He doesn't know about the business end where, as far as I went, it was like I would fight anybody. If they wanted to fight me, I would fight them. Was that the smartest thing to do in business? No. I should have had somebody in charge.
Did you have a manager?
No. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I would literally manage somebody now. Like these are, and why did I learn that? Because of wins, losses. Also have a life coach if you're going to pursue this thing, because I have losses that I should have never lost because I didn't even care about getting punched in the face because my life outside the cage was horrible.
Yeah.
And I was going through all these emotional things.
I remember a fight, like I was talking to you like a week before one of your fights, and you were going through some shit.
Yeah.
I remember. You remember that? And I think you lost that fight. And you were telling.
It might have been Dunkin' Donuts Center. I fought Derek Brunson. That guy
I think
was
it
like
was
number 3 in the world.
I think it was, but we were.
I was homeless, living in a factory, sleeping on an air mattress. I'm on billboards.
Yeah.
And like banners on like if you walked up Atwell's Ave, there was huge banners.
Yeah.
I'm literally sleeping on it. I got a Bible and an air mattress and some oatmeal cookies.
Yeah.
And I end up fighting Derek Brunson, who became, UFC like
he was good.
Star.
Yeah.
Like who was like
that was what card was that? That was
the convention center.
No, but who was that main event? Oh, Batista.
Oh, that was another one too.
Yeah.
That was like all kinds of breakups, and then ended up like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Ended up
that was the one I was talking about.
To a place that I didn't belong.
Yeah. But you knew you were going to lose that fight, man.
Well, I thought I was going to win because I was on that roll.
Yeah.
That was like right after I just was whooping everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went into, but the problem with that one was I went into that. The kid came in overweight and he was being cocky and talking junk. And I was like, I'm going to crush you tomorrow. He came running at me with a flying knee. I do an overhand right at the same time. Instead of just being patient, moving out the way, boom, hit me in the solar plex. Froze my whole solar plex.
That was Dunkin' Donuts Center.
The Dunkin' Donuts Center.
That was the Batista.
Bro, but
I remember that.
That's crazy. Even though I lost that one, you looked in the crowd, everything was green. Everybody was wearing green hoodies.
We were all there for you, that whole place.
I was working in Dunkin' Donuts Center like 4, 5, 6 years before that, and it was completely dirty and broken and messed up. We were redoing it, doing the concrete. I go out there, the whole place is empty. I sit down on a seat. I was like, it would be incredible to fight here. Wow. This is what I'm saying, bro. We're speaking it into existence right before I even knew. It would be incredible to fight here, like the feeling, this and that. Boom, walking through the back doors, going in the locker rooms. I experienced it all. It was crazy. Man.
Crazy.
With just not thinking I'm going to be this guy fighting in the Dunkin' Donuts Center. Not thinking I'm going to be a world champion. Not thinking I'm going to be on billboards. It's just following something and choosing to do the hard things every day to get to the point of fight night. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then it keeps boiling. It keeps snowballing and snowballing and snowballing.
You must have had a lot of temptation around those days. All kinds of temptation.
Well, I had the fact that I was going to be on TV or in front of thousands of people, like with my shirt off, and I was getting punched in the face, and I didn't want to let anybody down.
Isn't that the hardest part about being a fighter? It's like not losing for yourself. It's losing to let people down.
It is definitely.
That's the hardest part, man. I hated that shit.
And it's the worst perspective you can take on.
Yeah, I know.
It got to be about.
I know.
It got to be about your purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because when you go out there, that is. You got the cameras, the lights.
Yeah. It's like if I get knocked out right now.
You hear people in the background, kill him.
Yeah.
You're like,
if I get knocked out right now, I'm going to be so pissed. Yeah.
Yeah, you get knocked out. My kids are right there.
Yeah, man. Oh. Yeah.
I didn't let them
you
know
don't care.
You
don't care if you get knocked out. You're gonna get up and but like
you get wrecked in the gym all the time.
Yeah, you do. You know, you do freaking. You spar 3 nights a week, and like you're always getting hurt in the gym. It's just
sparring killers.
Yeah.
If you're in the right place.
Yeah. They had some killers, man. We're at Manfredo's. Maurice, I remember sparring Maurice. That was terrible. You remember Maurice? Maurice Jones, I think his name was.
Yeah, I think so.
He had those super high boots, those super high. Yeah, he sucked to get hit by. Jesse Brinkley, freaking.
Oh, Jesse, he was funny. That kid. He used to come in the back and try to mess with us.
Yeah, he was a good kid. Yeah.
Where was he from? Like Ohio or something? Like,
somewhere out west. Yeah. Somewhere out west. But him and Pete met on the contender.
Toka used to come in the back. Man. Yeah. George. Chase him around.
Thomas.
All the boxers were coming back like, come on, let's wrestle.
Yeah.
He's like, nah, man, I ain't messing with you.
All right, man. Let's wrap this up. That was amazing, man. Yeah. Seriously, I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
That
I
was
appreciate
a lot.
You having me on.
Yeah, and we'll definitely do part 2 if you want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to touch on more. I had a list full of questions that we didn't even get into, but I want to just get a better understanding about this whole thing because, like I said, there's an energy pulling me in that direction, and whether I like it or not, it's happening, and I gotta figure out. I could get into it in another. Let's close it out, and we'll bring this into part 2.
We really could.
Yeah.
We should anyway.
Yeah.
We should talk.
Yeah.
You know the 5 people rule.
Yeah.
Right?
5 people you surround yourself
absolutely.
with.
Yeah, we were just saying that before we made this appointment. It's like we gotta start talking. But all right, man. Episode 11, Mindset Radio Podcast.
Yes.
Thank you, the beautiful Sheena, Todd Chatelle.
Let me give a shout out to Sale Construction. If you need any concrete flat work, give me a call. And Chatelle Real Estate. You can hit her up on Instagram. She's the hottest working real estate agent out there now. Buy and sell with Chatelle.
How do you spell Gricel?
It's Gricel.
Yeah, go give him a follow. If you guys need any concrete work done, any construction type of work, call Todd. And let's wrap this up, man. Everybody, thank you for listening. I think this is one of my favorite episodes, if not the favorite episode. So I'm looking forward to getting this done, editing it, and getting it out there. And let's take it there for episode 2. Thank you, guys.
Peace.